Yes, 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 and welcome back to the PMC podcast. And I'm joined by another very special guest, Mr. Josh Bridgman. How are we, mate? How are we doing?
I'm good, thank you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Very well. So, for all the listeners out there who don't know who you are, I'm sure they do. Do you mind just giving us a sort of a brief introduction of who you are, what you've done within the fitness industry, and how you've got to where you are today?
Yeah, so I'm Josh. I'm a bodybuilder. I do a little bit of social media here and there. I built a little bit of a YouTube channel, Instagram and whatnot. Online coach. And that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I've competed a few times, trying to go for that IFBB Pro card. Kind of started chasing that dream a few years back, and I've just been on that journey since. To be fair.
Decent, decent. You say you do a little bit of social media, mate. Your YouTube and your Instagram are booming, mate. Especially during lockdown, the amount of sort of like stuff you've been giving out, like information, is absolutely awesome. So if you guys haven't checked out Josh's Instagram and also YouTube channel, go check out. There's loads of good stuff on there for you guys.
Nice one, man.
But
Appreciate it.
so talk to us about how your training's been going during lockdown, because I see that you've got a very, very good setup and you've taken full advantage of that. And you're sort of, even with the dreams of sort of having a little bit of a gym yourself, the one where
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've always had that sort of picture in my head of, opening up my own doors in the morning and walking in and turning the
yeah,
music on and have it to myself. So I've always had that sort of dream. Lockdown sort of presented us with an ultimatum. I mean, like I'm all in on bodybuilding in this phase of my life. So I was prepared to kind of, invest a little bit of money into building, sort of like a little dream place. And I got a hamstring curl, a T-bar row, a cable stack, a power rack and stuff. So I'm pretty well equipped across the board. So training's been really good. It hasn't really slowed down. I had the first week, I had a little bit of a wobble. So, trying to get the equipment was the hardest part, and it took a bit of time for it to come. But once it all came, like I've just been in routine since, and I've not really looked back. I've just progressed just like I would do normally. In fact, I'm creeping up on a deload right now. Like I've accumulated fatigue like I would do normally. So I've had it pretty good, but I've bought all these pieces of equipment with the idea that I'm going to use these again when lockdown's done, right? And the gym's going to come hopefully at some point in the future, and I'll move those in there.
decent, man. And also like just having that equipment there, just like for the days like when you've just got like maybe like a delts and arm session on the weekend, or you've got like
Exactly.
a smaller session to do, so
Exactly
not
that.
be able to drive to the gym and actually just do it at home in like
Yeah, it makes such a
like
difference.
yeah, no, you could probably do like a little bit more arm frequency and stuff like that with the whole cables, so like scenarios, situation, the setup you've got at home and all that sort of stuff. So this makes things a lot easier, doesn't it? Like having a cable,
Yeah,
especially
honestly.
I was
Yeah.
speaking to Ryan about that. We were saying like what equipment, if you had to buy one piece of equipment, what would it be? It'd be like a cable stack straight away. Hopefully,
Yeah.
like, if I could, I'd get a Cybex Bravo cable machine straight away.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at the
So
start of that.
expensive, aren't
So I was
they?
like, fucking hell.
They are so expensive.
£8 or some crazy, like even the second hand ones are like 6 or 7. I was like, no thanks.
Yeah,
That's like what.
they
But
are
yeah, that's the
crazy.
first thing I got. First thing I got was cable stack.
Yeah, and that's the first thing I'm absolutely buzzing to get back on. As soon as I can go back into Halo X,
So good.
they got two Cybex Bravos now.
Really?
Yeah, we got two Cybex Bravos now, which is
Oh,
we
for
got the
sure.
free motion cable machine and also the two Cybex Bravos. So the cable stack, we've got a good little setup, mate.
Yeah, it's really. I've trained there once, and it is amazing there. To be fair.
Yeah, they've actually just bought a load more kit as well, like a Cybex leg press and stuff like that. So
Spot on.
yeah,
I'm
man,
gonna
you have
have
to
to
come
move.
down soon. But well, so you've just finished up. I looked on your Instagram and I was looking for you. I watch your Instagram daily, mate. But you just finished up your mini cut. How did that go? So how long did you cut mini cut for? Because I see a lot of people on Instagram now. Mini cuts used to be a thing where it's just like 4 weeks in and out, but realistically,
Yeah.
we sometimes have to push them a little bit longer than we think. And sort of
Yeah.
how did that go? How long did you go for? Until what was the structure around it?
So I ended up doing. I mean, technically speaking, I'm probably still in a deficit despite food coming up. But like, so from like start to when we said, okay, we're going to lose body fat right now, until we said, okay, we've lost enough, it's probably been 11 or 12 weeks. And like, I think that me and myself and a lot of people that have been talking about this mini cut that's not so mini, I think I was quite naive in the fact that all the mini cuts that I've ever done, I probably didn't lose enough body fat. I probably didn't. I probably just waited until I got hungry again, and I thought, oh, I can go bulk again.
How do?
And it probably didn't do the job that I set out to do. I think in hindsight, I mean, you take a couple of weeks to get into a routine, into a deficit, a couple of weeks to feel the changes, and then what, you're going to finish 2 weeks after that or 3 weeks after that. It didn't make sense to me now that I'm doing this longer process. And I think it's really, really gone well, to be fair. I've gone from 117.2 kilos down to about 104, like high 104s.
Jesus.
So I pulled off 12 in 12 weeks, 11 weeks. Training performance is like, it's progressed until maybe this last week where I felt the fatigue build up. Energy has been better than ever. Stress has been, you know what? It felt like prep. It just really, I put the stress on myself because this has been pretty chill. Don't like, I don't get me wrong, I'm hungry, but like I don't have the stress. Like my sleep is perfect, my digestion is perfect, my sex drive is, don't get me wrong, like it's not like 100%, but it's at 80 or 90
Yeah.
versus when I'm in prep, and almost like having that focus on the prep end and the goal and or the photo shoot or whatever it is almost adds so much stress to the scenario that when I prepped, I think like within 8 weeks that was it. I would zero sex drive, didn't feel good. I was like, that's it, the grind's fucking on. And that's the switch I had. But this has been so pleasantly dropping body fat at a nice rate, which has been quite nice to have not as much pressure. And you know what? My girlfriend says, do you want a little nibble of this? I can say, yeah, all right, go on. It doesn't make a difference, you know? So it's been quite nice in that fact.
Decent, man. I think what you said earlier about the stress of it is like, that's one thing. So like, this is the first I've done like many of the sort of like, we would class them as mini cuts in the past, like holiday diets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've ever done like a proper photo shoot. And it's in your head, like the stress you get into. Like realistically, my calories aren't that low. The lowest my calories have been at 2,500.
Yeah,
So, like, I've been coasting. Like, I've been losing a kilo a week. Like me and Ryan are like, we're sweet. We're coasting through.
Yeah.
Sleep's been optimal because obviously I'm not doing it for my PT job. I'm not doing 6 a.m. PT sessions anymore. So like in that scenario, but it's in your head, and it's like,
Yeah,
I'm constantly thinking like, I'm not digging hard enough. Should I be digging hard enough? I'm tired. Like it's crazy. That's why like, sort of like what you said about just doing it as a mini cut. This is quite like an easy sort of process. You're sort of just going through it and stuff like that.
nice.
And especially losing like 12 kilos, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
So, what's the plan going forward now? So, the mini cut sort of over. What's the plan? What's the plan now?
So I'm gonna push. Well, I'll probably run a little bit of a maintenance phase right now, just kind of get this fatigue off. I'm gonna hold off this week. My girlfriend's birthday next week, so I'm gonna hold off this week, just tactically, to take a deload during that week.
Yeah.
So we can relax a little bit. Once I've deloaded, I mean, that'll be 2-3 weeks after the mini cut ending. Would probably just start like just incrementing calories back up. And I don't know if anyone knows, but I'm assisted as well. So, you know, I'll start my blast phase, my higher doses of drugs during that phase after some blood work.
Yeah.
So almost going to reverse diet in with extra sauce on top. So it would just be a big push, anywhere from 14 to 20 weeks. And then I'll come back down, I'll chill. Potentially where my body fat is, we may run another little maintenance phase or a slight cut. But hopefully I'll just be in the position where I can just look to get my markers 100% for a prep in January, February. So one more push for muscle mass towards the end of the year, one little relax, and then one more push.
Decent, man. Sorry, guys, we lost internet connection there. But what I asked you before we lost it was, being an assisted athlete, can you sort of push things a little bit more aggressively in regards to the food front? And can you take sort of body composition a little bit like go a little bit sort of more relaxed in that front when you're asked to compared to being natural?
I think like in terms of like actual food amount, like I don't think the food amount, like I still had to, when I was natural, I still ended up on 6,500 calories or whatever it was to be able to put the size on. That's just me as a person. Also have to go super low the other way, right? So I end up on like 1,700 calories to get shredded. Like it's just me as a person. I have to go real high and real low. But the one thing I will say is that you definitely would stay in better condition just because you have more ability to shift more of that nutrients into muscle, more ability to build muscle. So yeah, like of course, more of that is going to be muscle that you put down versus body fat. But yeah, like in terms of like actual food difference in eating, like it wasn't much difference to me, or isn't much difference to me.
No, fair play, man. I'm the same. I have to push things quite aggressively in regards to like food going up. I was sort of like, I remember maintaining like 4,200 something.
Yeah, and it's like when you go for an off-plan meal, you lose weight, and it's just like,
you go, or like you have a weekend where you're like, oh, I'll just relax a little bit, temper the gas.
Yeah.
I'm not going to track this weekend, just have a little bit more relaxed. And you end up like losing a kilo. You're like, fuck, what have I done? Yeah. So so you said your sort of last sort of push to the end of this year. You go start prep beginning of next year. What's the plan competing wise? You to do sort of like pro? Is it to get a pro card? You have to do a pro event like a?
You just have to, basically to compete in a, to get a pro card, you have to first just compete in a qualifier in your own country. So I was looking to do that kind of Aprilish, just so I can then compete in pro qualifiers. Then you can do pro qualifiers that will give you a pro card across Europe and whatnot. So I'll probably do one of those early and then just go for a little run of pro qualifiers. Maybe get on the first one, maybe get on the 10th one. Who knows? You just got to kind of see who turns up on the day and hope for, and just bring your best package, really.
Decent. And how long are you thinking about doing the prep for this year, or like start to first show?
It'll probably end up the same, about 16, 20 weeks.
Yeah.
Usually takes about 16 weeks. Normally brings me in like 95%, and that's perfect. So you can push a little bit more rather than have to kind of play with different things as you go. But yeah, we'll see how it goes as we go.
Have you found, because obviously you've done a lot of natural competition events, and
Yeah.
you've got incredibly lean, man. Like I look at yours, like I've watched, it's funny, man, like my prep head is like, when I'm doing this, I've been watching like everyone's old like backlogs in their YouTube channels, like just like sort of just like relate to other people with like what they're eating and stuff, like routine. And I've been watching like all your like old school YouTube videos where like you look completely different, and you're like they're doing like all the natural competitions, and like you've got yourself into incredible nick. Like, have you found any sort of difference between, as in like having to push a bit harder naturally because you don't have those things to play with in regards to like the assisted side of things? Would you find is it pretty much equal again? Like you still have to push hard, you still got to put your head down and dig.
Yeah, it still ended up pushing just as hard. It still ended up being just as difficult. I mean, like I was way leaner when I was I veins, right? I get those veins, like real elastic skin, so people kind of perceive it as being super lean. And I was, but like I wasn't like I was when I was on anabolics or anything. It was like a new level. So whereas my weight on stage when I was natural was like 83 or something, I was only 86 on my first competition, but it was like at least a 10 kilo swing in body fat. Like it was ridiculous. I'd never ever experienced like body fat like that when I was natural. I was a long way off when I look back at those pictures.
Yeah. I'm quite lucky in a sense, like you, in a sense when I can do like a holiday mini cut, like a 6 week Ibiza diet, and get really good abs, but my back's still well fat. My back and my legs are still well fat, but then my abs are just like in, and so I'm like, oh sweet. And I get that like elasticy skin at the front where like I'm still probably, I've probably got like, if I wanted to do like a comp, like I haven't got nowhere near as much near enough like as much tissue as I need to do a comp, but I'd still probably need to push like another 2 weeks or so, 3 weeks maybe, to sort of get it all off. But
yeah, it's hard.
Yeah. So obviously with the gyms going to be reopening hopefully very soon, I wanted to get you onto the podcast today and talk a little bit about how would you structure an individual's return back to the gym to maximize muscle growth, but also like regain lost tissue. And I want to talk in a sense from the people who haven't been able to use a vast majority of equipment, the people that have just been sort of having to use bands and dumbbells. What sort of how would you, what sort of advice would you give someone to go back into gym with regards to like we'll cover like training split, we'll cover like reps into failure, but so what sort of like going off the back of things, what would you recommend?
So I think something to consider in that equation would be like training age. So if someone's perhaps more heavily muscled and would probably be in the position where they've probably lost a little bit more muscle as opposed to someone who's less muscled. So like based off that, you'd like, if they're younger training age, you could probably, great opportunity to actually just bring them away from their like bro split or their push pull leg split and actually put them on an upper lower split for once, because they kind of got a fresh slate, which is quite good. So you can kind of utilize that depending on where their training age is. But generally speaking, for most people, you're not going to be able to go back to where you were. It's going to absolutely hammer you. Central nervous system, muscle soreness. It's just going to be too much. Like it's going to absolutely destroy you. So like part of this program that I've developed for people that are going to be able to buy in a week or so. And what I'm going to be doing for a lot of my clients is just bringing you back at like a much lower volume. Already it's, generally speaking, I go off a lower volume program, but it's going to be even lower than that, and it will just progress as your neurological adaptations take place, as your central nervous system starts to adapt to the heavy stimulus again, the strength. So you don't feel like you've been hit by a truck. It's just a small car instead. And then as you start to feel the movements again, and as you start to reestablish your motor connections to these movements, and your movement patterns start to fall into place, then the volume's going to creep up again. And then, you know, as you get even stronger again, and as you start to have that internal feedback of not being as sore, starting to feel a little bit better, starting to not ache as much, and starting to get a little bit more motivated for these sessions, because you might find after the first couple of sessions you're so heavy and sore, it's going to feel great, but you might just be like, wow, I can't be going back into the gym again. Then the volume's going to go up again, and then you know, within anywhere between 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 weeks, you're going to be in full swing very, very quickly. Like neurological adaptations to strength, neurological adaptations to movements, they're going to happen quickly. So it's just about bringing it in at the right time. I mean, doing it arbitrary for most people, you know, 2 weeks or so, add a little bit more volume, add another bit of volume after 2 more weeks. For clients that'll be a bit more specific, you can obviously talk to them, you can gauge their biofeedback, and if they're feeling great, why not put it more in? You know, some people just have that innate ability to recover really, really well. Some people just get hit by a hammer, you know. So gauging that will be a big thing in how quickly you bring back that volume. I think another thing, intensity, like you're gonna have missed being 10 out of 10 failure on something that fails around 6 or 7 reps. You're probably gonna have to just be mindful of not maybe going there right away. And just, you know, we talk about RP, reps and reserves, just leaving that 1 or 2. Don't get me wrong, you want to be going way higher than where you were going in lockdown, because you've been craving it, because you have not been able to do that. But you just start creeping yourself up that scale. Maybe it's a 7 the first week, maybe it's an 8, then it's a 9, and then, you know, 4 weeks, you're going to be back to a 10 on 1 or 2 sets across the session. And then as you keep going, you can maybe bring the back offs to failure, and et cetera, as you go.
Yeah, 100%. And with regards to, you mentioned monitoring sort of biofeedback and stuff like that, what sort of markers would you be looking at with regards to assessing recovery capabilities?
So things like HRV. I mean, a lot of people don't do HRV these days. I mean, there was a big swing where everyone was doing it, and now they kind of moved away from it.
Like everyone was tagging everyone
Literally,
in Instagram.
yeah.
Thing.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah.
Like now I kind of like, I think people are learning that if you got low HRV, you probably just feel a little bit rubbish, right? So, so more importantly than anything, I mean, we could say the term biofeedback because it sounds smart, right? How do you feel? Literally, that's it, right? How do you feel? You saw, how's your recovery? Did you progress? Are you, you know, and you're going to gauge these things and just make an informed decision based off that, really. You don't need any fancy markers, anything like that.
Yeah, and that's it, man. And then, like, you know, when you wake up in the morning, like after, like, say for example, you go back in and you do a lower session, and you've gone on to the hack, and you've buried yourself for 2 sets, you will well and truly wake up in the morning and know that you probably need a rest day the day after that.
Exactly
because
that, yeah.
you'll wake up and you'll be like pretty crippled, especially if like the first session back into it.
Exactly.
With regards to a volume standpoint, what sort of guideline would you give someone? Say, for example, like someone doesn't have like a program, or they sort of want to wing it themselves. What sort of like guidelines would you give? Because obviously, like within research, we look at MRV and stuff like this, and we also look at like people saying that like it's anywhere between a range of like 10 to 20 sets per body part per week.
Yeah.
Start low and then sort of progress up in that sense. But obviously loads of people have probably been doing press ups, they've been doing like banded flies, split squats, and I'm guessing at this point in time they are bored as shitless of doing those variations. So and like they've probably been doing a little bit higher volume, like press up wise, because we can handle it, we don't have the load. What sort of starting point would you give someone, or recommend someone to go into the gym and actually start like, for example, on their chest, how many sets would we be recommending?
I think in terms of that kind of minimum effective volume and maximum recoverable volume scale, like your minimum effective volume is just going to be lower if the intensity is higher, right? So in doing that, I mean, if you've got a general rule of thumb of something like, I don't know, maybe you do somewhere between 8 and 20 sets, like just actually start on 8 and just don't push it any higher, because, you know, even that might be too much for some people, you know, depending how you split in it across the week. But like literally, for example, like the sessions that I've got, like there's, you know, you've still got exercise variety there, because I think it's going to be important for people to have just the ability to go on different machines. Like, you know what, you know, if you're doing 1 set on it, whatever, like I want to do 1 set here, 1 set there, 1 set there. So it's going to keep that interest there initially. But anywhere from like 4, 5, 6, 7 sets. Like at one point I was doing 4 sets of my chest when I was in an off season. So there's no reason why you're not going to be able to grow on that, you know, per week. But again, like it's going to depend on your ability to recover. It's going to depend on your ability to perform. If you find that you've done 2 sets that are pretty balls to the wall, and you know what, you can't fathom going to do another incline press and then fly afterwards, like don't do it. You know, just listen to the body and see where their fatigue is. But to give a number, anywhere from 4 or 5 sets per session, like you don't need to go crazy with that. See how it feels the first week, and then you know the second week, right? You don't, if you get it wrong the first week, you can get it right the second one.
Yeah, that's it, man. I think as well, it's a perfect opportunity for people to start utilizing this lower volume, higher intensity sort of training style, due to the fact that they can go into the gym, they can utilize this lower volume straight off the back of things where they probably have never done before. They've probably done bro splits, they've probably done sort of push pull legs, and they're doing 8 sets of chest on a day. Do you know what I mean? And they're doing this large amount of volume. If we get them to start on a lower volume within their training sessions, and then they start at, for example, an 8 out of 10 intensity, an 8 out of 10 reps in reserve, RPE, and then from there, then they just utilize pushing intensity, maintaining volume where it is. They're going to see this huge adaptation with regards to like hypertrophy, but also like progressive overload.
Exactly. Yeah. It's also a great opportunity to just forget the weights that you ever did before and get that form right. You know, make every single rep perfect until the final one, and then just keep that as your go. The issue that people find is that, oh, I used to do 100 kilo bench press. I can't take the weight down to make my form better because in my head, 100 kilos going down to 80 kilos is going to have a problem. You don't have that problem anymore. You're not going to lift that anymore. So go back to baseline, just pick a weight you can do perfectly for however many reps it is that you've been set, and then just keep that from now. And then in 6 months time, if you've got that same form, but you're lifting 10 kilo or back up to 100 kilos or whatever it was, it's going to be massively improved.
Yeah, and that's something I was wanting to talk to you today about, is like ego. Like, because we're gonna have people, and I did a podcast with Ryan Hook on the Mesomontals, and we were basically just saying like this is the perfect opportunity for individuals to go in and actually master like execution. The whole time, if they've been utilizing in this time wisely, they're going to be thinking about internal focus as the main sort of driver of stimulating tissue, because they haven't had the equipment available, they haven't had the loads available. So if they go into the gym and look at a machine, like make that machine fit them perfectly, they look to execute that movement like perfectly. They're focusing on internal focus, and then they start to use, then they can call in the first week of log work a low volume, then they start pushing that. They're going to see a far greater like stimulus of muscle hypertrophy than it would just going into like pushing, like for example 100 kilos, just like some shitty reps in a bench press and being like super sore the next day.
Yeah, we may never get like a huge reset button again, and this is like a big reset button for everyone, because who gives a shit what you lift when you go back? No one's really going to care. Just this is the perfect opportunity for everyone to wipe their slate clean, bring back the fundamentals, and come back, you know, really, really well. I mean, you combine those things like form, you combine the intensity, you combine the heavy weight, you combine new movements. Like it's just a recipe to grow, you know, if you do it right. So
yeah, like this is like you just said, mate, it is like the perfect position for individuals to actually grow as much as they can. Like if they go into the gym now and optimize their training, actually look to get the most they can, and be smart with the training, be smart with their nutrition, looking at protein frequency, looking at being into a slight surplus and stuff like that. And I know a load of people, a load of my clients have taken this as like full advantage to get themselves into relatively good condition. When they go back into the gym, they're in this prime position to grow. And that's the whole reason why I started my diet. I was like, oh, cool, I'll do a bit of diet. Then Ryan was like, mate, do a photo shoot looking lean. So I was like, sweet. But then it was basically just to prepare myself to get in this perfect condition to then grow.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like a lot of people have taken this time really wisely. I know that yourself, Joe Brightman, TM Cycles, the BBC, have all been doing a mini cut to sort of get ready and get ready to put the foot back on the gas.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of people in that unique position where you're now in the very lean or leaner. You're then going to reintroduce all this stimulus where really our only adaptation here is to grow, because that's what's going to help recover from that. And we could put up food next to it, and you may be in that unique position where you really just gain a shitload of muscle and not much fat. You know, you may be in that position. Don't get me wrong, it might not always work out like that, but you know, if you're very meticulous about things, natural, whatever, assisted, like you're in this position right now where if you put in that little bit of effort where you can cut and you start to reverse maintain and bring in this new stimulus, you got, you know, muscle mass that's going to come back that was lost. You got new tissue that's going to come back really quickly. Like it's, you know, it's going to be magical for a lot of people.
Yeah, man, 100%. And like, especially if the people are listening to this now and they haven't taken advantage of the time we've had in lockdown, stuff like that, like you probably still got another 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks. I don't know how long we've got left. No one has any clue. Like, come on, Boris, give us a date. But it's perfect opportunity to get yourself in. If you've got a little bit of body fat to lose, get yourself into condition. I know it's going to be harder for the general population now. Pubs are opening, which does not help at all for anyone.
I know.
But if we can focus this time now, if you haven't already taken the time to utilize this time we've got, get yourself into like a relatively good condition. You don't have to be shredded. Just get yourself into a leaner state of yourself, and then you will, like Josh said, that you're in this prime place to grow as much as possible. And that's what I'm at, like talking about this, mate. I'm absolutely well excited to just get back in and just like, because I'm going to do like a very extended like massing phase, and I'm so excited because it's like the best position possible to do so.
Yeah, you're also starving, so you can't help but think about it.
Yeah, I know, and I can't help but think about food, mate. It's funny, like my cravings have been like haven't been high at all. Hunger levels not been high at all. The only thing I want is like a nice like soft brownie. It's the only thing I want.
I know exactly what you mean.
But this whole prep, like savoury food, like Five Guys, whatever, don't even care. I was like, the only thing I want is like a nice soft brownie.
Nice. You better have one lined up for your photo shoot.
Yeah, that's it. So talking about going back into the gym and stuff like that, what sort of stuff would you recommend regarding a training split example for someone who has done absolutely minimal training?
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are sort of they've taken up running. These gym they're like they can't get motivated, which I do completely understand. And like if you have just got a couple of bands at home, like you can do press ups for a couple of weeks, and then at some point you like, and if you don't have the money to buy equipment, and obviously it's very challenging to buy equipment as well, the price shot up and it just became this absolute nightmare, didn't it?
Yeah.
So the individuals who have pretty much done nothing and has taken up running as their new hobby and cycling, what would you recommend from a training standpoint?
I would say you could probably come back in a full body, less frequency. More frequency, less training sessions on. So you can maybe do one on, one off, because you're gonna have to accustom very, very slowly, just coming from nothing. Yeah. I would be focusing on skill acquisition as well for a little bit, because you're gonna have lost a little bit of that skill of whatever it is, a squat, a bench, a deadlift, whatever that is. So you're gonna have to spend a little bit of time, maybe slightly higher reps, because you're repeating that movement more often and fortifying that movement more often. And there's no reason why you can do something similar in the way that maybe someone who's had a little bit more equipment do it, in terms of coming in a low volume and then creeping that up. You could do that similar thing, but in terms of like if you come from nothing, you could do like a full body for a couple of weeks or 3 weeks, and then maybe you move to an upper lower for a few weeks as you start to increase that frequency and increase that volume over time, and then maybe you go back to your push-pull legs that you were doing before. Obviously, depending on how trained or untrained you are, you would run that for an extended period of time. But again, low volume, like 1-2 sets here and there. Just really think about the movement. Think about just fortifying those patterns again, and you're going to feel after one session, if you've done nothing for 3 months, after one session you're going to be wrecked. So just take it easy. There's no rush back to it. Learn that skill again, get very, very good at those lifts, and just progress how you would do.
Yeah, man, and that's 100% like learning the skill, because there's so many people. And again, I spoke to Callum about this last week on the podcast. We were saying that like you teach a client, especially coming from like a PT standpoint, like where I am and where Callum used to be, where we would teach a client how to do a specific exercise. We go through like optimizing like a flight. So they've got internal focus, they've got mind muscle connection, their movement pattern is incredible, their range of motion is perfect, and then you see them next week doing it themselves, and then they're just going for the motion, like tempo's gone, they're just like doing thing. So like it's like the perfect time to like ingrain just fantastic sort of like the skill of the movements, and then understand like where, like what muscle you're really meant to be stimulating, and where you're meant to be feeling, and all that sort of stuff. So like for everyone, it's the perfect reset sort of button. Yeah. You mentioned earlier about sort of like a higher rep range point of view. Would you stay clear on, I know a lot of us, myself included, and I know you do, do sort of like a top set, a back off set. We do like one sort of like all out 6 to 10-ish reps, just like absolutely balls to the wall. And then we do a back off set, which is like a slightly more higher rep range for anyone who doesn't know. So like a top set's more like heavy sort of loading one, and then you do a back off set, which is more like 10 to 15-ish reps, which is like 20% reduction in load. And it's good basically to work within 2 different rep ranges within one exercise. Would you stay clear of that, or would that be something you still sort of will look to do?
It is going to depend on the person, right? Like,
Yeah.
if it is someone who is fully like untrained or relatively new, a couple months, and then they got caught with coronavirus or whatever, I wouldn't even be worrying about how strong they are. To be fair, I'll just be worrying about how they are performing and their internal focus, their connection to the muscle. That's pretty much all I'd be focused on for a pretty decent amount of time, and just giving them the overarching goal of trying to get stronger over time, rather than be like, nah, this is 6 to 10 reps, you fucking get it, boy, you get it. You know? It's a little bit different, right? But if you've got someone who's way more trained, there's no reason, right? Like, we know we grow over 6 to 30 rep ranges. Like, you can grow over. I don't know why you would. For me, I mean, sure, if you, it's a bit of skill acquisition, but if you're pretty skillful in that area, you've been training for a couple of years, but you did nothing for it's going to come back pretty darn quick anyway. Yes. Just because it's in there somewhere. Same way that we can all kick a football like we used to, even though we haven't kicked one for 10 years. So it's going to be something similar to that, depending on where you are on your lifting. But yeah, like, just similar, just building back up into it really over time.
Yeah, 100%. And would you, for a lot of individuals who are, I know like a lot of my sort of like people within my demographic and stuff like that, and within training, they do a lot of compound sort of movements, and like they do the back squats, they do the deadlifts, they love that sort of thing. And if they haven't done them for 12 to 16 weeks, like, would we recommend going back into doing those sort of movement patterns, or would we recommend them sort of looking at things more isolated, but also more that involve a little bit more stability? I think that's the word is going to be I'm looking for, in like regards to like a hack squat instead of a back squat, due to the fact that, like, I know if I went into the back squat right now, I think you experienced it as well with when I was watching your videos, like your lower back sort of being the first thing that goes, and that's I think if I did a deadlift, I wouldn't be able to walk for 10 days.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I really struggle to. I'm pretty good at it now. I can adapt to it now. But
yeah, man. What were you up to in the back squat?
Well, I banned it. I reverse banned it, and there was 240 on there. So I don't know. I did hang some weights off it, and I think it was like 40 kilos. It's like, so it does take off a pretty decent amount, but it was pretty heavy at the top. Like, you know what? That question, you know, if ultimately they want to squat and deadlift, and they're not too worried about, I say being optimal. I don't know. It's difficult what to say. Like, but in my opinion, a hack squat you're going to get more out of than a squat. But if they're just people that want to squat and deadlift, like whatever, like just reduce the load and don't tell them to go anywhere near failure, right? And they'll just learn that movement. The stabilizers will stable themselves. The movement will come back over time. Everything is going to start to. Ultimately, when people ask me what should I do if I want to get better at something, I just say do it more, right? That's just, if you want to get better at squat, do a squat more. But if you want to build more muscle, then you'd probably want to be in a more stable environment and a bit more control over things. So again, like, it depends on their goals, right? So, you know, if your clients are some people that really love the squat deadlift because they want to be functional, that's what people say to me when they squat and they deadlift.
What is definitely like? It's not functional.
Exactly, functional for what? When do I ever put 180 kilo on my back and squat? I don't know.
Down, no, it's never.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. If that's in their goals, then I would program them that, you know, and I'll just keep the reps higher, keep the intensity lower. I wouldn't worry too much about the environment if that's like the end goal. I assume they'll be like Gen Pop, not just want to be fit and healthy, right? I guess it wouldn't matter too much.
Yeah. And then, like, if you are someone who is wanting to be functional and do sort of squats and deadlifts and stuff like go in very cautiously, like
because your central nervous system will be destroyed. Yeah, it will.
Very I know for the fact that, like, even if I did an RDL, for an example, like, I reckon with my training, I'll probably go in and do. I've had a bit of. To be fair, I have had quite a bit of equipment available to me, so I have been able to do like RDLs, and I have been able to do stuff like that. But like, if I haven't been able to hip hinge or anything like this in a 12 to 16 week period, I wouldn't go in and go do an RDL straight away. I'd probably like look to like do like a 45-degree hip extension again, get an
and
understanding
then like progress into it. Yeah.
yeah, and that's
Yeah, that
how I
makes a lot of sense.
progress my movements instead of just going like, oh yeah, because I know that my lower back, especially like in a scenario where I've been seated pretty, I've gone from a PT to a desk job now,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
90% of the day, I know that my lower back would just absolutely crumble upon me.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And the same thing with a squat, like you just start with no weight or a box squat, and or you know you just progress that. Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense, to be fair.
Yeah, so if you are looking to do that, then make sure you are this care, and then like that's it. Like, and I think that you would completely agree with this. So just like when we are allowed back in, I don't know how the structure is going to be, and I don't know how they're going to allow it. And I'm praying there's not like this weird little, you can only have 10 people in the gym at one time, and you can't go on equipment after someone else. I'm just praying
Yeah,
this
fingers
nice
crossed.
smooth transition. And Boris is like, yeah, cool, go to the gym and enjoy it, and everyone go in and. But we can just pray, can't we? But like you'd probably agree with this, man. Just leave your ego at the door. Like, forget what you've done before and go in and start a new slate. Get yourself a new logbook. Forget your old numbers and just rebuild.
We're in that time where like people probably won't judge you for once, right? Because everyone's
Yeah,
in the same boat. Like no one's going to worry about you lifting 50% of what you did, because they're probably lifting 50% as well. So you almost, probably not, but almost in a judgment-free zone when you come back. So it's just a perfect opportunity to hone in on those skills, hone in on what we've been talking about.
yeah. There's a perfect opportunity as well to like set yourself new goals. Because it's this
Exactly.
new start, like so plan out what you want to do. And if you are an individual who's sort of like wanting to do a massive phase, like take advantage of it now. If you want to do like if you haven't taken the opportunity and wanting to do a quick diet, go in there, do a quick mini cut, and then start growing again. Because like this, like we've spoken about lots today, is this is the best time that you're going to have probably ever to grow muscle.
Yeah, exactly.
Mate, that's awesome. So wrapping things up, mate. So I thought we've covered that in a large amount of detail. We've gone through a load of like sort of practical takeaways for individuals listening to this podcast, which is awesome. I really, really do appreciate it. What are you most looking forward to doing post lockdown? I think my excitement in this is probably more than anyone else because I've been dying for so long, and I'm like,
Soft brownie.
yeah, I'm buzzing to just go to like different places and try different brownies and cakes. But what are you most looking forward to, dude?
Mine's not unique to me in the fact that I can't really see my girlfriend at the moment, just because I gotta be here to train from technically my job, you know, and
Yeah.
videos, and she can't leave where she lives because of her job. She lives in London. I'm about 2 hours away, so she's just spending time with her. Other than that, dude, like my life's not changed much. I'm very, very blessed in the fact that, you know, I work from home. I walk 5 meters into that room over there to go train, and I get a really good session every single day. So I'm in that unique position that not much is going to change. Could do with the Nando's, could do with some sushi, because where I live, like none of those, we don't have those things where I live either.
Okay.
So I have to go to my girlfriend's to get those. So
Yeah.
that's pretty much it, man. Other than that, I feel pretty blessed in my life at the moment.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to some sushi. There's a sushi place near where I live in Tunbridge Wells, and
Oh,
that's
really?
one of the first places I'm gonna go. Is like,
Man, there's an all you can eat. If anyone listening, there's an all you can eat in Birmingham. It's called
oh, I saw that. I watched that YouTube video the other
Shogun.
day.
It's called Shogun Sushi, and it's unlimited sushi, and it's like, I think it's like $17.95 or something. Like it's an absolute bargain, and it's absolutely banging. So anyone in Birmingham,
Yeah,
Shogun Sushi.
I think
So
that
yeah,
was the one when he went with TM to Body Power, wasn't it?
yeah, that was the one. Yeah, that was the one.
That's all I've been doing in my life at the moment, mate. Like all my free time is just watching YouTube videos of just like,
Hey, I can't wait for prep, because that's when I really like engorge in YouTube, because you've got so much time to yourself, because you've got things to do the whole day, steps, you know, cardio, training, and you're on your own a lot. So it's perfect time to look
yeah.
at
I
videos.
started a YouTube channel not like a year ago, and it's don't
Yeah,
really like it's very like I've got like 180 subscribers, but like it's been awesome just documenting this prep, and like it's been really
yeah,
cool to sort of like, and people's reaction to it's been awesome, and like people
yeah.
actually
That's
like,
good.
and it's like the nice thing about like social media and stuff like, oh, I'm going a bit of a tangent, but sorry, but the nicest thing about social media is like the amount of messages I get from people just like, oh, you're killing it, keep going, and like they've no idea who they are. I'm just like, mate, it's
Yeah,
awesome.
best thing. It's the best thing,
Like
man.
such a small audience as well, and
Yeah.
it's been actually like really nice.
Yeah, like negativity on social media, it is actually the minority. It really, really is. Like it's hard. Like you got to look for it, and the thing is, people do look for it, because negativity like in their heads, it holds more weight. But dude, there's so much positivity on social media. I absolutely love it. You know.
Yeah, man. So do I. So do I. And to be able to like reach out to you and get you on the podcast, it's so nice. And then that sort of scenario where we can sort of just like connect and like-minded people.
Yeah, man, it's amazing. Thank you
So
very much.
to finish things up, man, where is the best place for people to find you regarding? So I know that you're going to be bringing out like an optimal sort of training split for individuals and a training program for individuals coming back into the gym. So where can they find that? Where can they find you? Message you, talk to you
Yeah.
about different bits.
So you can just type in my name on YouTube and Instagram, just Josh Bridgman. I should be the top person there, I think, unless there's another Josh Bridgman who does social media. And I've also got a podcast called Bridging the Gap, and those are my 3 medias.
Amazing, man, amazing. And first of all, man, just thank you so much for coming on today. Like, I really, really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Do appreciate it as well. I always get this bit wrong. So if you were listening to this on iTunes, can you please subscribe to the podcast? And if you're listening to it on YouTube as well, can you like and subscribe? And if you're listening to iTunes, can you review as well? I always get it wrong. I'm so used to YouTube where I'm just like and subscribe. Cheers, guys. Right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Josh, thank you so much for coming on, and cheers, guys. Thank you.